In today's video, I'll be revealing why the belief that 1 million is always enough for retirement can be dangerously outdated and what you should do instead to calculate your true financial independence number. And now before we dive in, I do want to clarify, I've been an advisor for over 15 years. I've helped many people retire with way less than 1 million. So this isn't doom and gloom or some arbitrary, you must hit 7 figures and beyond to be able to retire. My point today is that far too many people, and I think some industry resources, treat big numbers like 1 million as if it's a magic finish line, and that false sense of security can quietly derail even the best intentioned retirements. If you're new to the channel, my name's Justin. I own a financial planning firm in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, where we help retirees all across the country make smart financial decisions and help them narrow down how much they can safely spend in retirement. That's exactly why I'm making today's video, to expose why a generic number like 1 million can fall short in today's retirement landscape and show you a better approach based on your actual spending needs, income sources, life expectancy, all that good stuff. So let's dig right into it. So first, let's talk about that $1 million retirement myth, because it gets thrown around a lot. And I've talked a lot about it before. If you apply that traditional 4% withdrawal rule, meaning taking a 4% withdrawal, inflation adjusted every year, 1 million only generates about $40,000 to start per year before taxes. And you may be able to stretch that to 50,000 to 70,000 maybe in some years, just depending. But inflation has quietly eaten away at what that buys. So that initial 40,000 today isn't remotely what 40,000 was 20 years ago, or even 5 years ago. Inflation since 2020 has been horrible, but people are also living longer. 25, 35-year retirements are the new norm. If you add in healthcare costs, housing, and then fund money, which is what retirement should be about in the first place, then that $40,000 can feel like a lean budget and not a lifestyle. But as always with retirement planning, there's some nuance to it. So some people can and certainly do make less than $1 million work if they understand their spending, their location, income mix, and realistic withdrawals. So the danger isn't the number itself. It's thinking that that number, whatever it happens to be, replaces smart planning. And so when some hit that $1 million milestone, they often stop analyzing whether it actually fits their life. They focus on those commas and not the context. So if the $1 million myth creates false security, well, what replaces it then? Well, real numbers do, specifically your numbers, because once you stop chasing an arbitrary target and start looking at actual spending and expenses, that's when retirement planning really clicks. And so next, let's talk about the spending reality check that actually reveals what your true retirement needs are. So accurate expense numbers are everything here. So you want to start by tracking all those essential expenses: housing, food, insurance, healthcare. This is by far the most important metric in retirement planning, and one that many just don't track well, or they'll put it off to the last minute, but it really is the key to the whole plan. Can your income, can your portfolio cover your expenses? And when you are calculating your expenses, keep in mind too that some costs are going to drop and others are going to rise, and where you live can swing your required savings amount by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Very different standards of living between, for example, here, central Pennsylvania, and then out in California, for example. And then, of course, those lifestyle goals, hobbies, family support, travel, all those shape what enough really means for you. And this is why I said at the beginning of the video, some people I've worked with retire successfully on 600,000, for example, while others might need well over 2 million. It's not about the account balance, it's about your expenses, and that's what will dictate how long your savings last and how much you need to accumulate. And now once you understand what your lifestyle is going to cost you, the next question is, well, where's the income going to come from? Because the size of your portfolio matters a lot less if you have predictable cash flow from ideally multiple sources. And so let's talk a little bit about the income source diversification that can reduce some of those savings requirements. So this is why there's so much variability in how much different people need for retirement, and why for some under 1 million is plenty, and why some might need way more than that. It's about the difference in income sources. And so the main one is Social Security. So that alone will often replace $2,000 to $4,000 per month, give or take, per household. And then some, just depending on your situation, you may have access to a pension, which is great. That can be a big game changer in retirement. Some couples that I know are actually saving money in retirement because they both have pensions, they both have Social Security, so they don't have the same income worries that maybe others do. You may have access to part-time work in retirement. Maybe you have a job that allows you to pick up some consulting hours or basically, just put in part-time work when you feel like it. That can be a great boost. But the point is that having multiple streams of income here reduces that risk. It takes pressure off your investment portfolio. And of course, it also gives you flexibility. So in down markets, you can lean more on some of the guaranteed stuff like Social Security and pension if you have it. In good markets, you can let your investments grow or use this as an opportunity to take more withdrawals and enjoy your life during that time. And so factoring in all the income streams gives you some breathing room. But here's the catch: they only last as long as you do. And that's where longevity planning comes in. And so whenever you're planning retirement out, you want to make sure you're planning for 30 to 35 years, not just 15 to 20. And I know this is where I get the most pushback. I just had a conversation this week where somebody said, Justin, I'm not going to live that long. Totally understand that. But healthcare advances mean that one spouse has a very high likelihood of living into the 90s. So longer lives amplify inflation, healthcare, and housing risks. And so if you have a shorter life expectancy, you might be fine with less. If you live to 95, obviously you'll need more or more flexibility. The right answer depends on you and other factors, much of which is unknowable in this realm, of course, in advance. But that's part of the challenge of retirement planning in the first place, trying to make a lot of decisions on unknown variables. But planning this way keeps you from overshooting or undershooting. We don't want either of those outcomes. And so once you've factored in possibly and hopefully living a long life, the next step is learning how to make your money keep up with you for that period. And that's where smart withdrawal strategy comes in, the part most people don't usually think a whole lot about until they're right at retirement's door. And so let's talk about the withdrawal strategy optimization that can maximize your investment portfolio, because we'd hate to have you run out of money in retirement. And here's where the real math kicks in. The old 4% rule was never meant to be an iron law. It was a rule of thumb built on a very US specific and I'd say high return century of data. I like to take a look at global returns in this context because it shows different scenarios, and you can also see what would happen in the assumption if the US is not always at the top of the return heap. So research from Javier Estrada examined more than 120 years of data across 21 countries. This study on maximum sustainable withdrawal rates found that depending on what country you lived in, what period of time you retired in, and the mix of stocks and bonds you had, the safe withdrawal range varied from about 2% to over 7%. Now, the United States happened to sit near the top, meaning most other countries would have required much lower withdrawal rates to avoid running out of money. And so Estrada's takeaway and mine is that retirement success isn't about locking onto a single number. It's about being adaptive, especially since we don't know what future returns will be. We're modeling past returns. The future we don't know, and there's also no guarantee that the US will be at the top of the return heap forever, which is exactly why I like this study and looking at global withdrawal data. It gives you a lot more realistic picture. Another important point in this study I want to highlight is that he showed that the maximum withdrawal rate was higher and failure rates were lowest the higher the level of stock allocation was in the portfolio. So if you have too much in bonds, too much in conservative assets, in this study, your failure rate was actually much, much higher. So you want to be careful that you're actually getting enough growth that you're going to need to sustain you for a 30 or 35-year retirement. And so to recap this, it's when returns are strong, you get to spend more. When they're weak, you'll need to pull back a little bit. That flexibility dramatically improves your odds of never running out of money and lets you enjoy life more in the good years. That rigid 4% and done rule ignores the reality that markets and lifespans move. Smart withdrawal frameworks, especially like this one that was modeled globally, are built for that movement. And this circles back to my earlier point. Some retirees can thrive with less than 1 million because they use strategic withdrawal design, not blind adherence to an outdated rule or a generic one, or what some retirees do, just take money blindly from whatever source is there without much planning whatsoever, and that's definitely not the outcome that we want for you. So now that you understand how to make what you've saved last a little bit longer, whether it's 600,000, 2 million, or 3 million, let's tie everything together and define what true financial independence can actually look like. And so now let's go over a framework that goes beyond that $1 million myth. So when people ask me, Justin, what's the number how much do I need for retirement? They're not really asking about math in my experience. They're asking, when can I stop worrying about money? When do I hit the point where I know that I'm not going to have anxiety all the time about taking withdrawals? And that's where the industry, I think, has failed people. It's basically taught them to chase milestones like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, instead of designing systems that keep their lifestyle secure no matter what markets do. And so here's how I think about real financial independence. It's not a single balance. It's not a single number. It's built in a couple layers of security. And so layer one is that foundation, and ideally guaranteed income for life's non-negotiables. So this is your sleep well layer. So Social Security, and then pension if you have it, or part-time income, or if you have annuity income that can cover the absolute basics: housing, food, healthcare, insurance, property taxes, whatever that number is that you have to have that covers your monthly essential expenses. This isn't just about financial security, it's psychological freedom as well, because when your basics are more or less guaranteed, market drops stop feeling like personal emergencies or big anxiety inducing events. And that's why some people, as I mentioned before, with 600,000, for example, feel perfectly calm. Others with 2 million or more might need to log in every day in the morning and check their portfolio constantly because they can't get rid of that stress. And the next layer is your freedom layer: flexible income for lifestyle and joy. So this is the layer that funds the life you actually want to live: travel, hobbies, family experiences, generosity, if gifting is something that you like to do. And this can come from those investment withdrawals, or if you have part-time work or other income flow that goes beyond your essential expenses, you can plug that in as well. So the psychology here is flexibility. And when you know which expenses are optional, then some of that market volatility becomes more tolerable. So you can dial spending back temporarily without feeling deprived because your essentials are already protected. And then the last layer, layer three, is that opportunity layer. So once layers 1 and 2 are covered, anything above that is what you'd call like freedom capital. So this is where you can either invest for future growth, legacy giving, or I just want to do some of these bucket list items phase of retirement. So there, it's not about survival anymore. It's about purpose and impact. And so when all these three layers align, security, flexibility, and purpose, then that feels like real independence. And it's not a number, it's a structure that can adapt as life changes. And I think once people see their plan through that lens, it can help you stop asking, do I have 1 million and beyond yet? And instead start asking, do I have a system that lets me live well and sleep well? And that's the real goal of retirement planning. And so now that you understand why thinking 1 million can last forever in retirement is dangerously outdated, how to calculate your true financial independence needs based on actual circumstances, you can develop a realistic and sustainable retirement strategy. If you need help determining your number or determining what might make sense for you, click the link in the description below the video. There'll be a quick questionnaire. Fill it out. I will send you back a personalized video giving you my thoughts on your retirement, some steps you can take to possibly improve. Thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.